Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Big Sky. A great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, the beginning of the episode immediately picks up where the season 1 finale left off, but Cassie's got all that stuff running through her brain about what happened. Well, Ronald trying to, kill her, Jenny getting shot, just everything, blood still covering her hands, trying to go after Ronald, but it's just there's no catching up to him. He's already long gone. And just kind of stops, and we skip to 6 weeks later. Jenny's out of the hospital, luckily, still obviously got the scars from the bullet being removed and everything. I think you can still see the stitches from when they closed the wound, but it seems like her son, she confirms it later on, but her son's off at college. I'm sure she wanted her son kind of as far away from everything, just in case, if anything ever comes back, she'd rather him not be nearby and get caught up in the middle of that. I'm sure it's also, you already had to go through, your dad dying. I don't want to freak you out and just be, he'd probably just, she probably wants him to go to college, to have some form of a normal life, but also it's just, because you're just going to be sitting around, the house worrying about me, so I'd rather you not, so. It is interesting, because I guess Cassie and Jenny haven't really talked much in that 6-week period, because the moment they're around each other, it's just kind of an awkward thing of it's almost like we're back to after she found out about you and Cody. It was almost like that, not that level of awkwardness, but it was still awkward to some extent, but I think it's because on some level, Cassie feels like she let Jenny down by not getting Ronald, and it's there's nothing you could have done under those circumstances, so. But it's still a little awkward. Jenny hasn't really been back to work, but we later on find out she went to Walter's yo, I've been thinking about it. I'm gonna take the badge. And I'm I initially thought she was doing that as an excuse to go after Ronald. I'm you're still jurisdiction wise and stuff like that, because it is a conversation she ends up having with Cassie later on is, with the badge, there's so much you can get through, because with a badge, you have much more than a PI, because as with a PI, there's limits to what they can do, because they don't have a lot of the backing and resources that an actual full-blown police department will. I mean, their only backup are Jerry and Denise, and any help they can get from Tubbs or even Lindor, but that's about it, in the grand scheme of things, so. But with a badge, she could do a lot more. But for Cassie, it's just there's too much red tape, and she already had to deal too much with just her being an issue with being a cop. So for her, it's she felt like she could do so much outside of that system. But which is I'm not trying to judge you or anything. Jenny is if this makes you happy, then go for it. And it's we're partners together, right? We're still partners. It's yeah, because she's not selling out her side of the business. She's not going to be working there, but she's not cashing out. It's we're still going to be there to get I'm still invested in it, but it's just I won't be there, which I think is going to set up some interesting things, because eventually it's going to get to the point Cassie gets to fly by the seat of her pants, but eventually because obviously Walter let a lot of stuff that Jenny and Cassie did slide, other times didn't. But I think it's eventually going to get to the point that Jenny's going to have to bring down a hammer on Cassie, because as a friend, it's I'm worried about you. I don't want you to get hurt. You handling things like this could jeopardize any future cases and stuff like that, the prosecutions and stuff like that. So Jenny's going to be thinking of it from that perspective, whereas Cassie is nah, we got to get the results. We got to do whatever we can. I think both of them have kind of decided to go down two different paths how to handle this Ronald thing. Now, has she completely let the Ronald thing go? In no shape or form, but I'm wondering, Jenny figures with a badge, maybe she might feel she'll be reined in a little bit, because I think maybe because for her, it's right, things have always gone sideways because I didn't have the badge, and now that I do, I can kind of get stuff done. I could help a lot more people, because she ends up bringing up what happened to Cassie with Waggy. It's that would have, that happened to you because we didn't have the support we needed. As PIs, we were well, we can't really officially call anyone without this. Let's jump on it. So all of that's plaguing, Jenny's mind and her decision. But also for Cassie, it's even more reason to, because it's we're just going to get caught up in the, I said, red tape of it all. But I think because of just her drive to go after Ronald, that she's fixated on that, because even Denise brings it up later on. It's she's not taking any other cases. All she's focusing on the Ronald. So, I mean, we even saw that last season where it's right, we're just working on mainly this Rick and Ronald situation, but it's not until later on in the season, and even that ended up blowing up into like a bigger case to an extent. But they worked like one side job and then was mixed up in like last season. So I'm curious, will we get like more like side jobs kind of thrown in there while still obviously progressing them? Because like, yeah, you got to progress your main plot, so there probably won't be, because I feel like if there are any like minor cases, it's going to be like character development and might be seen as kind of like what is it, filler episodes. So that's what it probably like, it would like, so they're probably going to steer away from that storytelling wise. I wouldn't mind seeing other cases and stuff like that mixed in, but like I said, because even like, because I wouldn't even call it, because filler like has a different definition depending on what context you're talking about, whether it's just a regular TV show or even anime. Yet serve some of the same purpose, but like story progression mixed into a filler episode and character development in certain regards can still flow with a story. Whereas in anime, it's almost like all that filler stuff, all those relationship develop mean nothing, because it once again just depends on how the anime ends up handling. Regardless, I'm going on a huge tangent, but I'd be interested to see how they handle that this season. Like I said, they only had like one case not related to like everything going on. Obviously, with like each like the back half of the season dealt with like the Ronald stuff, as well as like the whole family stuff that Jenny got mixed up. Well, her and Cassie, but mainly Jenny because of her connection to him and everything. So I wonder, is there going to be any pickup from some of that stuff this season? I'd be interested to find out like any aftermath to that. I mean, I think we got all the aftermath that we could last season, so they're probably not going to touch anymore. There still could be aftermath, so there might be something in that regard, but I just thought that was such an interesting development. Obviously, things between Cassie and Lindor, it's like, okay, so he's kind of like, you know, it's like, all right, I got a dog, his name's Rudy, or Jim, and it's like, yeah, I give you the rights to kind of get to name him. And it's like, yeah, he's still, that drink you owe me. She's like, I don't think I owe you a drink. And just like, yeah, it's like, because it seemed like they were taking a step back a little bit, because Lindor's like, right, you haven't called me. Because I guess she kind of felt a little concerned, because it's like, I think Lindor kind of got, because he got suspended for a bit, I guess, because it's like, right, it's your fault that like things went sideways like they did. He's the one that made a decision to like take Ronald out so they can find Mary's body. So it's like, that's on you for like, so because of his mistake, so all the weight and hammer came down on him pretty hard, I think. So I think that's why he's kind of without his badge right now. So maybe because of that, Cassie kind of feels a little weird about being around him, but I think it's also like, right, I don't have time to really think about all that, because all she's focused on is Ronald. So, which is interesting, because like you would think like Jerry would be all about that too, but it's like, I think the fact is Jerry can take a step back a little differently than like Cassie can. Like I said, I think Jenny's just as much up there with Cassie about that, but I think it's just, she's just going her own way of dealing with it, whether it's just like, maybe she's taking his badge because she's avoiding her really dealing with, like, that could be like a defense mechanism in its own right. You know, we'll have to wait. It's just the first episode, so there's no telling like what directions a lot of this could end up taking, how it could all shift and change as the season progresses. But obviously we get introduced to some other new stories and characters. There's that girl, Max. And I kept looking, I was like, why does that actress seem so familiar? And I'm like, I don't think it is. I have to look into it. I'm like, that's not the girl who played, like, was it Ruby in Walker? Like, I don't think that's the same actress. I don't think it is. I could be mistaken, but I was like, they look a little similar, so it might be her, but it probably isn't. But because I kept being like, why does she look so familiar? That might be what I know her from. If that's the same actress, it might not be. But, yeah, her, like, weird mom's new boyfriend, which even her mom's not vibing with him, because even she was kind of like, when he comes down and stuff like that, and he drinks a drink that, like, Max is going to drink, and it's like, he's, like, working out in the window, and he's staring at her and Harper as they're leaving. It's like, that's creepy. Why are you doing that? He's like, oh, yeah, also call me T-Lock. It's like, it's weird, like, once again, like, you're not supposed to give yourself a nickname and force, other people. It's supposed to be genuine, where people are like, yo, T-Lock. It's like, it's weird and gross that you want, like, the daughter of your girlfriend to do that. Like, that's just weird. It's like, and also we find out later on, the douchebag is like, oh, we got plans for the future, so, like, everyone has to chip in. So the money she's making from, like, babysitting Cassie's son, he takes, like, a large chunk of that. I'm like, what kind of BS is that? What was that? That's some horse shit. I mean, it's like you're a creepo, and it's just like, called her sugar pop, and I'm like, ugh. They use the word cringy. I'm like, I can get it. Like that's not just creepy. That's disgusting. And there's like too much of a connotation of like, ooh, sugar pop and just Maxie and just like calling her nicknames. I'm like, ugh. But like I said, even like the mom doesn't seem like she's too into it. Even she said, I guess it's just maybe because she knows Max and him have beef. Like Max has a big time issue with him. We don't know what her dad's situation is. But yeah, it's just, that's weird. Then you tie like Max and Harper's story in with like that drug deal that was going down, and home dude opened up the back. I was like, yeah, he wants you to put it in the back. I'm like, I'd be kind of a concern. I'm like, I thought like home dude who was making like, yeah, can we do the deal like normal? He's like, no, put it in the back. I was like, well, shouldn't you feel a little awkward that he wants you to do that? And it's like, oh, he's got like, he went full-blown Dexter's got the back of the vehicle set up like that. Shoots a guy, starts wrapping him up. And it's like, okay. I guess like he backed out of the deal. It's like, cool. I'm going to take the money and the drugs. So either like he's screwing over whoever's involved in this, or maybe he got orders to screw them over. Whatever the case may be. But as he's like driving along, I guess to go dispose of the body, home dude wakes up and attacks him. While at the same time, you've got, Harper, Max, as well as Madison and her brother, which her brother's there because it's like, yeah, you're supposed to be security for us because like, it was like Max or Harper had like seen a creepy dude in a van nearby. So it's like, you're going to be our security. So, and the moment like things kind of get awkward when like, Max is giving Harper a tattoo and it's like, yeah. And Harper's like, hey, kiss it. And it's just kind of like and obviously like Madison's brother has to be a creepo who's almost like, yeah. And she has to slap him like, dude, stop being weird. But it's like, yeah, you can tell like how awkward they were on each other the moment Harper walks away, and she's just kind of like, kind of a little bashful about it. I'm like, oh, that's actually super cute. It's like you're both super into each other. It's that thing of like, oh, you're besties, but like you're feeling weird about crossing that line about like how we feel. But then like they get mixed up when like the truck crashes. Home dude is still alive and being like, why he told them to take the money in the bag. It's like, get out of here, he'll kill you. Like, but why you just tell them to run? Like, why would you tell them to take the bag and the money too? I mean, the bags. Like, I don't get why he would say that. Like, because at first I was like, is he not the bad guy we think he? I mean, he could sort of kill someone. So I'm like, I don't know what his deal is. Like, why would you tell them to do? I guess like he knows he's about to get it, and it's like, right, take this to screw them over so they don't get what they want. Turns out it's drugs and money, and they decide to keep it because they're like, right, we can't involve the cops because if we do, we took money, we took these bags from a crime scene. It's like, yeah, I get it, I totally get it. And they're like, later on, they're like, right, we're in too deep to turn back now. Obviously, like in the story, you need like there to be trouble. Like that's how you do a story. Like there has to be conflict. But still, like in the context of the story, I'm like, no, you don't. You literally don't have. You're not into. It's not too deep. When the fact of the matter is $500,000, and who knows how much a product that is. Worth. So it's like that's a lot of money, which. My mind when I'm like, oh, dealing with money and drugs, I'm like, my mind will always go cartel, which I'm like, that's the worst situation you ever want to be in. You never want to be like caught in like a like, I mean, granted, like a drug ring in general, worst situation to get caught up in. Like you never want to steal somebody's money because somebody's going to come looking for that money, and you never want to be caught holding the bag. So there's that. But like I said, like it's. Like, who knows? Like, it is Montana, so this could actually be a, like, cartel thing. Because we do find out, like, Jenny knows the dude Travis, played by Logan Marshall Green. I saw his name in the opening credits. I was like, oh, snap, that's dope. He's an undercover cop, so, like, that's why he was doing the whole, like, oh, they call me Stone, because I can drill through anything. I was like, that's it. But even I was like, because even Jenny's almost like, why are you acting like that? That's like, right, he was undercover, but he's, like, undercover, like, different drug rings and stuff like that, so, obviously, him and Jenny are definitely going to cross paths because Jenny just got the case of the truck. Because at first it's like, yeah, it looks like it could have been an accident until they do further investigation, which we haven't gotten into the further investigation this episode. But I love that the guy she's with, it's like Walter literally warned you that the guy could talk and she didn't listen to him. And it's just like, hey, deputy, could you just kind of almost like, could you just shut up? Because he's like the department gossip. I also love that Ginny was like, I'm not wearing that uniform. That's an ugly ass uniform. I'm not wearing it. He's like, all right, so don't complain about your office when you get to see it. But yeah, like kind of quickly making herself at home. So that's definitely going to be interesting. But circling back to the kids, they've all decided to take the money, like, because even, like, Madison was, like, all about it last night, like, oh, we need to call the cops, and her brother's like, you wanted to call the cops, we should do it now, but it's like, we're too neck deep in all of this, because it's $500,000, you split that 4 ways. I had to do the math in my head really quickly. It's like, what, about 120,000, it's a little more than 120,000, probably like 120,500 each. Maybe, if I'm doing my math correctly, and now I'm too lazy to continue doing the math in my head. I could go over there to my phone or even use the calculator in this phone, but once again, I'm too lazy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the math for that. But regardless, for them, it's like, oh, life-changing money, especially because it's like, right, especially with like Max getting her money taken all the time, but then also like, you know, Harper tried to like connect with Max by being like, yeah, like, did I tell you my stepmom sucks? So it's like, they've got issues at home, but it's also like, man, you kids. And they literally just been like, oh, I love that there's that line of like, oh man, I wish something was happening. And I'm like, are you not aware of literally everything that went down last season? What are you talking? I guess it's like they are teenagers, so like you're not mixed up in everything. But I'm like, I guess it's like they passed by like some of the stuff and like, oh, I guess all the stuff is like all the wild shit that went down last season. Like you were completely oblivious. Okay. Like, oh, you want stuff to kind of happen, interesting stuff. Like, okay. Once again, it's just like your typical teenage stuff. I guess it's just supposed to be irony of just like you making that statement and then you literally get mixed up in something you shouldn't be getting mixed up in. The thing, too, is, like, Max hid it at her place. It's, like, the little shack that they have, and she's like, yeah, my mom won't notice him, but it's like, whoa, T-Lock is who he is. So what's most likely going to happen is he's going to find the money, and he's going to pressure Max about it, and he's going to, like, right, he's like, we can take advantage of this. It's like, rather than split with your friends, we're going to take all of it. We could do so much with it, and he's going to go running his mouth or doing something with the money, and rather than it get trailed back to Max, it's going to get trailed back to T-Lock, and then he'll probably try and sell Max out just to kind of, well, because they'll either, whoever it is behind all this, will either torture him or, to get the information about, like, oh, where'd you get the bag and stuff, like, where's the rest of the stuff? Stuff like that. We don't know. I get the feeling like, because since they already set up the whole, like, T-Lock trying to get money, like, whether it's something, like, really, like, him and Max's mom are really, like, mixed up in together, like, they're trying to build something, or whether that's just, like, him putting that on the entire family. We'll see. But it's interesting because, like I said, Max babysits Cassie's son, so there's a connection there. Like I said, while Jenny's already working the case, Cassie's more likely to probably get like something out of them, like when the time comes, because she's not actually a cop. Jenny probably won't be as fortunate because she's got the badge now and everything, so that'll probably turn into a whole issue because everyone's got their reluctancy when talking to cops. To be fair, Cassie's still somewhat close enough to a cop. She knows cops, and she kind of borderlines in that even if she is a private investigator, it's still going to be like, yeah, they're probably going to be even more reluctant still to talk to her. So you add that, and then on top of that, there's also a dude that witnesses and probably overhearing their conversation, so he was there that night watching them. I don't know if he's just like some homeless dude, or maybe there's some deeper there. Who knows? So they also, well, we as the audience didn't get to see it, but the guy who arrived in black and stuff like that, and who shot the guy that was still alive, is like, beyond that, like, that's all we got to look at him, but who knows if the kids were able to see his face or not, which is like, it's going to be an issue. Because part of my brain was like, well, they're introducing the drug rings and stuff, and I'm like, well, does this have anything to do with Ronald and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, Ronald's people are with trafficking. I mean, drugs can still fall in that lane, but I'm thinking this is probably like a separate other issue running rampant in Montana and stuff like that, like at the time. So it's like, it's probably like a separate thing. Maybe it'll eventually tie into the Ronald stuff, but maybe it might just be a whole separate beast all on its own. We did have Lindor and Cassie investigating Dewey because they found neighbors, like, got footage of Dewey showing up to pick up Scarlett, because it's like, right, if we can find Scarlett, then we can find Ronald, but the feds are still looking at Scarlett as a victim, so they're not really like pursuing her like the way Cassie, because Cassie's like, yeah, she's definitely involved, because every like her, Jerry, and Denise are all like, yeah, this smells fishy. So, but they go investigating, like talking to Dewey, which he's like, yeah, like my superiors thought she was in danger. It's like, for what? Ronald was still locked up at the time, and it's like, right, you need to kind of stop asking questions. They're watching us. It's like, and ultimately later on, Jerry and Cassie find Dewey's dead body. He's got like some shears or something. I think, yeah, because that's what he was doing to take care of his plants earlier, jabbed in his neck. So that's cool. And Cassie ended up finding a file on his desk, and it's got pictures. Like either he was doing that, or he was ordered to do that, or someone he's working with that's in this trafficking ring type of stuff did that. Whatever the case may be, he was saying like, right, they're watching you, they're watching me. So he had to be taken care of, because it's like, oh, there's police investigating. So like the police have found out that you're dirty, so you need to be taken care of because you're a loose end. You're a liability. Like if they might put you in a position where you might be forced to answer something. It's probably the thing of like, no, I would never turn against you. It's like, I'm sorry, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, you know. So that loose end's kind of tied up, but also knowing that, like, yeah, they all have eyes on Cassie, even her son. Question then becomes like, well, does the same thing apply to Jenny? Well, Jenny's the only one around, but that still doesn't mean they can't get to her son. But to be fair, Cassie's the only one still investigating the Ronald thing. So, well, at least on this front. So there's not enough breadcrumbs left. This was a pretty big one that she found. Maybe Lindor doesn't have enough for it to be an issue. Like, he doesn't have something to lose. Whereas Cassie, like, yeah, her son, even her father could be threatened. So I think that's where we find ourselves in that lane of things. So, but once again, we're already seeing the whole thing of like, right, did you tell the cops while you're here? It's like, yeah, it's Ronald related. And it's like, did they buy it? She's like, I don't know. Once again, it's like, it's going to turn into that issue of like, yeah, maybe at first it's going like, Jenny's going to let a lot of stuff slide, but Walter's probably going to have to be like, you can. And then she'll probably buckle down a lot more. Like I said, I think we're going to see Cassie and Jenny kind of try to work together, but also be on opposite ends. Like I said, each one processing and dealing with it kind of in their own way. I think you could I think you could make an argument that maybe Jenny's kind of trying to avoid and run away from it by taking this job at the badge, whereas Cassie's doubling down and is a little reckless when it comes to this whole Ronald thing. There was a lot of reckless behavior last season as well, but, you know, we'll see. But we get our twist at the end, and it's like, oh, Ronald is chained up, and it's like, oh, wow, that didn't work out for you. And it turns out the person behind all this is Rick's twin, which that came up last season. It was like, yeah, it was like a one-line dialogue thing about him having a twin. I don't think they never really went extensively into it, to my recollection. I didn't rewatch season 1, so I don't, but I did vaguely remember them being like, yeah, he has a twin. So I wonder if he's mainly doing that because it's like, Ronald, you're the reason why my brother's dead. So it's like, right. So I guess like this is his operation, or not, unless he's just another cog in the operation, because that would also probably explain how Rick got mixed up in all of this, if his twin brother's mixed up in it. So whether he's the head honcho or whether even he answers to someone else, we'll have to see. But it didn't work out for Ronald. Where's Scarlett and her daughter? We don't know. Maybe they were let go. I have to look into it again too, because the actress who plays Scarlett, I don't think I pointed it out last season, but like I did feel like I recognized her for something, but I couldn't remember what. And I think I looked it out. I think it came up sometime after like season 1 was over, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't recognize. That's what I recognized her from. I was like, it was something, and I had to look into it because I don't remember what it was. But I'm like, I recognize her. I feel like I went seeing her again in the recap. I'm like, I do know her from something. I just don't remember what. If I remember, I'll include it in the comments down below, or maybe if she comes up again in the show, I'll probably like reference it then. I'll probably just put in the comments down below just so I'll have some peace of mind. But I'm really excited to see where the next episode takes us with this. A lot of setup, you know, Ronald kind of taking a backseat to a certain extent, kind of did for a little bit in certain regards in season 1, but yeah, to an even bigger extent, because obviously we're branching out more with the operation that he's kind of a small cog in. Like I said, we'll see probably like who in the higher management is, whether it's Rick's twin or something else. I wonder if there's going to be any blowback for like, because it was Rick's wife that killed him, so maybe there might be some retaliation on that front. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making the assumption this is about his brother, like on some level. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. Maybe it's just like, you've been reckless, Ronald, and I'm going to keep you around because you're useful, because he knows all there is to know about Jenny and Cassie, so it's like, he is useful, but it's like, the way he looks, I'm like, oh, you must have been locked up in there the full 6 weeks. Like I said, we'll ultimately have to wait and see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it, good day, and goodbye.